tutorial on how I did this step by step. This is the ARP 556 adapter. So as you can see on the left side, there are my steps. I basically first started out by measuring the maximum dimensions on the X and Y, and then with a micrometer, took the measurements for the adapter plate, you know, the male part of what has to, excuse me, the female part on the ARP 556 that the adapter has to fit into. So I just took extreme dimensions to start, because that internal is really all I'm worried about there. So what I did here is this is just the extrusion of the male that fits into the female part. Again, just took the measurements with micrometers and added a couple fillets. There's wires that go through there, so you don't want to have any sharp edges or any kind of like shear points where when you tighten everything down, it's going to get, you know, crimped in there. So the way it is those wires are easily passed through to the buffer tube. Just a couple of chamfers again here and there, and this is all just based on the stock part that came with the gun. I'm just kind of going through there and looking for things. They're non-critical dimensions, but I do think they serve a function in regards to molding, and as well as, like we said, you don't want to have any shear points or anything that's going to crimp the wires. So this is the loft command that I use. Basically, this is the transition step from the existing geometry to the new geometry that we want, which fortunately is just a round tube, so it's super easy. But you offset a plane, the distance that you want that tube to sit in. Get your measurement from the tube. Now, keep in mind this is a threaded part, so you want to measure down through the diameter of the lowest point of the thread and not the top of the thread for the overall outside diameter of the tube. That's important to get your threads to match up. Just extruded our hole through there. Now there was one trick. There's a washer that actually, you know, mounts through the back of the gun and into the spring guide. Not a washer, a bolt with a washer. And it also adds to the strength of the adapter on the back of the gun. So that's important to be able to get that washer in there to be able to tighten it down. So I did have to kind of take a cosmetic cheat, or I don't know, something that's not desirable cosmetically for this part in order to get that in there without making it two parts. I'm working on a cap to cover it up, but for now it totally works. It's just a slight aesthetic blemish that I'm not really happy with. You'll see it's coming up here in a second. It turns out I just had some sketch there. I'm not exactly sure what that was. Accidents happen, but it's just an unused sketch and an unused work plane. Yeah, I'm not sure how that got in there. All right, so that's what I'm talking about with the washer. I have to be able to drop a washer down in there and mount it. So basically I just, you know, again, reverse engineer the geometry that washer is stock from the ARP, so you won't have to have another part. You can use the stock part. Slides right in through the top there and then gets mounted through that center hole right through the spring guide. And you do have a very robust, solid connection between your gun and the adapter. So going in here, now the last step is we just have to add the threads. On this particular 3D printer that I use, it's very high detailed and you can do some pretty fine geometry. So you're able to run some threads in there. Yeah, I was just showing you the profile of that washer that has to fit in there. And again, keep clearance for the wires to go through for the battery. But the threads are you know, I wasn't exactly sure what they were on a buffer tube, so I had to measure those threads, but we got lucky, and it turned out that they were great. Nailed it. So happy there. I didn't have to go in and change those. But this is my thread profile again. This was all just measured right from the actual buffer tube. I've used several different makes and models of buffer tubes, and they all seem to fit. So that seems to be a standardized dimension for that thread anyway. Now, the outer diameter of the buffer tube is different, I'm told. I do have one that fits really tight and one that actually fits pretty smoothly. And I can show you that stuff later on in the video. But they work. But these threads actually do hold it really well. And when you get, you know, your buffer tube in there with the castle nut behind it, it does hold it quite well. So anyway, here is our final step with the threads. That's the axis that I'm going to run the coil through. And again, it's just that you know, triangular profile that's run down through with your pitch and everything that you have to put in there. And again, I just measured all that right from the part using some digital calipers, good quality ones. They don't have to be crazy, but you should be able to hold a thou on your digital calipers, and most of them do, even the cheap ones from Harbor Freight. So anyway, that's my part. Um, that is what I designed and printed, and it actually works really well. So all right. So after all that, here's the buffer tube adapter that we printed. And as you saw, like kind of the design of it previously in the CAD run through. If you guys have any questions on how to do this, man, I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have in the comments. But it's really straightforward if you can prioritize it in your mind. So, you know, the key here with this adapter is this geometry right here is critical for obviously mounting to the ARP, either the 9 or the 556. So this is the stock part, and this is the part that I designed. So obviously this stuff here has to be consistent. These rails are irrelevant because they're not going to be there anymore on the buffer tube. So anyway, this is the profile that matters, and then this geometry here, and like I said, this is where the wires go through. So that has to be clear with no shear points. So basically we just, you know, knocked that design off and added from here back. Now again, this is all irrelevant. And now we have our buffer tube to screw in there with the castle nut. Now I've done this on 2 guns. This is what it looks like stock on the ARP 9. So the ARP 9 and the ARP 556 are identical from this back here, as well as this stock. Now I don't like this stock because it's plastic. It doesn't really grip well when you shoulder it, and I don't know, just all in all, it does not fit the gun for me. I don't like it. So again, needed a buffer tube adapter, and that's why we're here. So this is the stock ARP 9, and that's kind of what the back end looks like on the ARP 556. So here's one of them that I did, and again, this gun is completely custom, everything about it. The only thing, you know, externally. So we've got our buffer tube adapter here that mounts in with the castle nut. You can see that we were talking about earlier where that washer goes in. So this thing mounts, it's super sturdy. You're not going to have this thing fall off, break, whatever. It's a super solid part, and I stand by it 100%. This particular one, again, I'm not a fan of this stock. I just happen to have it from an old shitty gun. But we're going to change this up. But, you know, we can fit a... Let me grab the battery real quick and show you. You know, this was a battery that came with the ARP 556. It's an 11.1 LiPo. This thing will fit in there fine. Again, I'd like to tuck these wires in a little better.
and then when everything comes out, I mean, it gets plugged in there. So you could just put like a little, some kind of plug to hold it in there while you're playing. It's not going to fall out, but I personally don't like the aesthetic of that. It kind of looks chintzy and half-assed. So anyway, that's an issue that's solvable with just this piece here. So this is an ARP 556, again, with the buffer tube adapter. We've also done some other things, like this is a 3D printed amplifier. Does make actually significant noise, and I'm working on making them louder. For those of you that like an airsoft gun that's loud, but right now this is my only thing. And again, this stock's going to get changed, and I'll show you what we're going to change it to. So again, same gun. The whole build on these are consistent. They have identical internals, hop-up units. They both have Max Pros in them. I really like these. I hear people talk shit about them. They say they're super expensive, but I like them, and I haven't found anything that I think shoots better. So for me, it's worth it. It does look badass in there. So that's that. Anyway, this is the stock that I was talking about. So this thing fits a little bit tighter on there. It doesn't quite slide out as easily as the other one. And I've noticed that with this stock on all buffer tubes. So I'm not sure if G&G, this is G&G stock, has a different spec for the inside of this, or they use different buffer tubes. I'm not sure. But this thing does, I mean, it moves out, but it is a little tight. It's a little tighter than I'd like it. So we'll work on that. But again, as far as putting a battery in here, it functions exactly the same way as the other gun. And it hides and gets in there really good. Now, I love this stock because it's rubbery. It fits its shoulders really well. The balance of this gun is great. This is an awesome, awesome, awesome gun. Love it. And I've bought much more expensive ones that don't even touch the performance of this one. So, anyway, that is my ARP 556 buffer tube adapter project. Thank you for your interest, and I look forward to your comments. At least the nice ones. Thanks, guys.